Hi everyone, Charles with you here on a Tuesday afternoon. I'm looking at a article on LifeSite News where Mackie Hickson lists all the attempts by the clergy and the laity to reach Pope Francis, asking for clarity or voicing their concern with what he's saying. And, she has all these things listed. Well, here, under this heading, direct attempts by the clergy and laity to reach Pope Francis, she has 20 different attempts. Amazing. And under the heading, indirect attempts by clergy and laity to reach Pope Francis, she has listed 15 more attempts. So, it says here, however, Pope Francis has not responded in any visible and clear way, nor met with those who have called upon him, not even with the four dubia cardinals, to all of these initiatives, except for the recent meeting with Bishop Schneider, which nonetheless was finally without any clear and unequivocal results. Well, I keep on going back to this Abu Dhabi statement with this Iman. And, if there was anything said in these 6 years about Pope Francis and heresy, this statement clearly, without a doubt, is the most flagrant, shining example of a Pope committing heresy during his papacy. It's absolutely amazing. And, what's been said about it? Very little. Well, I think, maybe we're all getting to the point of being resigned to the fact that, either the bishops, cardinals, and priests around the world, a lot of them agree with him and what he's doing. For those that don't agree, they just keep silent for, whatever their reasons are. Actually, there's another article somewhere. I saw it again today. Apparently a priest, it's in Church Militant. Apparently a priest had asked his bishop if he could sign this latest correction, and the bishop told him that he'd be suspended. So, well, unfortunately, that's what the priests are, afraid of, obviously. So, anyway, one point I want to make is there's a very obvious sort of reason why the Pope doesn't respond, and that's simply because when you respond to something, you give it credibility. And then, if he had responded to any or all of these corrections and addressed himself to all these concerns, he'd be giving them credibility, and, he'd really quickly back himself into a corner. Because he knows, without a doubt, he knows exactly what he's doing, why he's doing it, and he knows he can get away with it. All right? He's tested those waters early on in his papacy, and, the silence is deafening. Yeah, there's a few people that speak up, but, there are a minuscule number of people, clergy, and even the laity, the petitions that, I have put up on the channel for you to sign. I mean, some number of thousand of people, maybe 5 or 10,000. I mean, this is like a tiny percentage of Catholics. So, he's doing the smart thing. I mean, I sort of hate to admit that, but, as far as he's concerned, he's not gonna respond to anything. Now, he did respond to Bishop Schneider's concern about the wording in the Abu Dhabi document that God wills the diversity of religions, thereby sort of saying between the lines that all religions or religious belief systems are a path to heaven, when Christ said differently in the gospel, obviously. He told Bishop Schneider, for those of you that don't know this, and there's probably only a few of you, but I'll repeat it for your sake. He told Bishop Schneider that, oh no, I didn't mean his active will, I meant his permissive will. Well, the document itself clearly states that it's God's active will that he wants this diversity of religious belief systems in the world. And, that's obviously a heresy. We don't have to be, rocket scientists to figure that out. So, that's, and, the document hasn't been corrected. It stands as it was. If it really said God's permissive will, the Imam never would have signed that. I can't imagine that he would sign that it was God's permissive will that allowed all the different religious belief systems in the world. So anyway, so you got that. All right, so I'm going to jump over to here, and this is from May 2nd. And, here we see the Pope, very fragrantly, I think that's the word, very obviously pushing the one world government here. So Pope Francis made a strong new push for globalism on Thursday, calling for a supranational, legally constituted body to enforce United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and implement climate change policies. Speaking to members of the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences in the Vatican's Apostolic Palace, the Pope said, when a supranational common good is clearly identified, there is need for a special, legally constituted authority capable of facilitating its implementation. All right. Well, so, I think most of us know, but for the few of you who may not know, the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations contain three areas that are in direct conflict to Catholic teaching. That would be the promotion of abortion, the promotion of contraception, and the normalization of homosexual relationships around the world. And here is the Pope, supporting, very outright just supporting this, So, if you would ask your typical Catholic on the street, do you think Pope Francis supports abortion? And I would think, the vast majority of people would say no. But here he is just doing it. And now, of course, you're not going to find this information in mainstream Catholic news, right? They don't cover this stuff, all right? They omit this kind of stuff, all right? Even if you're Joe Blow on this Catholic on the street, follows, looks at some Catholic news, you're looking at mainstream Catholic news, he's not even aware of what the Pope is doing. It's really, so, I mean, there's such a need for, education. It's amazing, I really wish every Catholic would have the opportunity to educate themselves, or decide whether they want to take the time from their worldly lives and educate themselves. It just seems to me that, just if you or I would ask someone this question, a Catholic, and they would, and you would tell them, what Pope Francis is promoting here. They say, "Oh, really? Wow, I didn't know that. Where do you get this information?" And then, you can give them the information about where these places are on the internet that we pay attention to. And, it gives them the opportunity, and what they do with the opportunity, is up to them, the old thing about leading the horse to water. All right. So, it's just, and how you get to these people, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Or I'm going to try to give you an idea of something you can do. All right, so let's switch over to this idea that I have here. All right, now I've talked about this before. Maybe some of you remember it. Others of you, probably haven't heard it. So I'm going to go through this again. Now, I would say the first thing is, I'm going to ask you a question. The question is, what are you doing in your everyday life that is not the will of God? Now, none of us live the will of God perfectly. If you would think about that, and if you really want to do something that could very well make a difference, and it certainly is going to make a difference as far as saving souls. And I think it'll give you a good feeling to do what it is I'm going to suggest that you do. All right. Or, give you the opportunity. I feel like Christ is telling me to, you're on this channel for a reason. Jesus put you here for a reason. And he's inviting you to do something right now. I don't mean you have to do it right now. The invitation is in this video here. All right. So, what are you doing with your life that isn't the will of God? All right. So, in other words, where are you wasting time and spacing out and, just doing, whatever people do, with their everyday lives. I don't really know too much about that since I'm a hermit, so I don't really do things in the world. You go out to dinner, you go to movies, visit friends, well, whatever, whatever these things are. All right, so, there constitutes some amount of time. So, I think Christ is inviting you to put that aside for the time being and spend some time working on a project. All right, now here's the project. Now, the first thing is you're going to write a letter to priests, or I'm saying you're gonna, if you want to do this, it would be a letter. Or you could write it to bishops or, whatever, people or whatever. Anyway, if you think about, your concerns, the concern that I just talked about Pope Francis and this supranational, and how he's supporting the UN agenda of abortion and contraception and normalization of homosexuality. All right, so, if you just sit down and write out the things that concern you, communion for the remarried, or the death penalty, that the Pope changed, or the Abu Dhabi statement, or whatever it is. And then write a letter. Say, Dear Father, Hi Father, Good Day Father, and then, enumerate your concerns. And then just put that letter, save that letter, and you're going to come back to it and look at it again and polish it. But there's, when you write something, especially something important, you always want to put it aside for the time being. All right. So in the meantime, as you have stolen some time that you usually give to the world, and you don't have to do all this in one day. You're invited to go to your diocesan website. Go to your diocesan website and look up at the top there under the tabs, and there should be something that says parishes or something like that. Anyway, I'll get to the page where the diocese lists all the parishes in your diocese. And then either there or there'll be a link to the parish webpage. So what you're looking for is the email address of any priest. All right, the pastor, and sometimes there is one or two other priests depending on the size of the parish. All right, so get these email addresses and then just, copy them and paste them onto another piece of paper here. All right, so this is your audience. This is who you're writing to. And then, once you polish up your letter, once you get your letter polished, I don't know, Gmail allows you to send 500 emails a day. Now, you may not want to do that all of a sudden. But, you could send 5 or 10 a day. And each day as you go click, you go, well, there's 5 or 10 more opportunities for a priest to, for me to show concern, about what's going on. Now, if you get into this kind of thinking like, oh, well, what difference am I going to make? Well, in the eyes of God, you're making a difference, and that's all you should care about, all right? You're doing this for God. You're not doing it for me or for the world or for your husband or, whoever. You're doing it for God, all right? And I think, don't you want to put a smile on Jesus's face? I think you should want to. All right, so the only thing I would suggest or would like for you to get across in this letter is just a whole concept of a belief system cannot contradict itself. In other words, you can't have an official teaching that Christ says the only way to the Father is through me. All right. Well, he says something like that. Well, that's the point of what Jesus is saying in the gospel. I am the way, the truth, and the light. No one comes to the Father except through me. And then, have this Abu Dhabi statement, or you can't have, official teaching that says, unless you live with brother and sister and you're remarried, you can't receive the Eucharist. But yet, this is going on. In practice, it actually goes on. So this whole concept of a belief system can't contradict itself. However you want to think about that, the whole idea is to get across that there are really that not only Pope Francis has really gotten away from what Catholicism is, but it's a whole nother church is what, or, I hate to call it a church, quote unquote church. But what you say specifically is really up to you. You need to use your own words, and, you need to be pleased and proud of what it is you're trying to get across. You're trying to please Jesus Christ is what you're trying to do. And I hope you all, boy, I've talked more than 20 minutes already. Seems like 2 minutes. I just, offer you this opportunity to do this. I believe it's an invitation from Jesus. The more proactive you are, the more graces you'll get. Good things, only good things will happen. Jesus is only going to give you good things for your effort. So, to me, it sounds to me like this invitation is, to say it's well worthwhile to put aside maybe some worldly interests to work on this, is an understatement. So I'm just going to leave it at that, and you can think about it and make up your mind what you want to do. I'm just sort of the voice bringing it to you. All right, well, I think that's it for this video, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.